What's going on, everyone? It's April, and we're officially only a couple weeks away from the start of the NFL draft, which means I've got my first mock draft ready to unveil, so let's get right into it. With the first pick overall, the Cleveland Browns select quarterback Sam Darnold, and hopefully finally get their quarterback of the future. Now, Darnold has been the name that's been associated throughout this entire process as the top guy out of the group of quarterbacks available, and he had a very good pro day. He's been saying all the right things, which equates to him heading to Cleveland, in my opinion. Now, the Browns can go several ways here. They can take a guy like Saquon Barkley or Bradley Chubb, but I really do think there will be a run on quarterbacks. For that reason, the Browns can stay put and be patient and land the guy that they want also at number 4. At number 2, the New York Giants select quarterback Baker Mayfield, as they stay put since I don't have any trades included in this version of my mock draft. But regardless, the Giants go ahead, get their future signal caller in Baker Mayfield. Somewhat of a surprise, but I do think the Giants want a proven winner, and that's exactly what Baker Mayfield is. Now, I will say, even though it's very early on with the second pick overall, this has been a position that I've been going back and forth on as to what player the Giants are most likely to select. On one end of the spectrum, quarterback makes sense since the Jets went ahead and traded up to number 3. You would think they'd have traded up with the Giants if the Giants were targeting a non-quarterback, but regardless, if it is a non-quarterback, I think the most likely guy would be a lineman, whether it be offensive line or D-line, and mostly because of the background that Dave Gettleman, the new GM of the Giants, has. He likes those big guys building from the interior, whether that be the line or on the offensive or defensive side. But for now, we've got Baker Mayfield at number 2. At number 3, the New York Jets select quarterback Josh Rosen as the run on signal callers continues, and the Jets didn't trade up and give up all that equity to not go ahead and target a quarterback here. We pretty much know this should be one of the more straightforward picks. It's a matter of which quarterback, and I really do think they like Josh Rosen. From everything we've been hearing, he's been the name that's been associated with the Jets. He seems to be, according to scouts, the most pro-ready, has the highest ceiling, so between him and Josh Allen, Rosen is the pick here. With the number 4 overall pick, the Cleveland Browns are back on the clock and select defensive end Bradley Chubb. They go with the best available player left here, and to me, this pick will come down to either Saquon Barkley or Chubb. I give the edge to Bradley Chubb, pairing him with Myles Garrett from last year, as they got Carlos Hyde in free agency. They shored up the hole at running back, and I firmly believe you don't take a running back this high in the draft when you can have an impact player like Bradley Chubb added. At number 5, the Denver Broncos forego a quarterback and instead select offensive guard Quenton Nelson, who a lot of people are labeling as the best player overall in this entire draft, even though he is an offensive guard. But regardless, the Broncos decide to protect their investment in Case Keenum, go ahead, select Quenton Nelson, and then try to upgrade quarterback in the later rounds. With the number 6 overall pick, the Indianapolis Colts select running back Saquon Barkley, and in this scenario, I do think the Colts narrowly miss on the 2 guys they would have also targeted in Bradley Chubb and Quenton Nelson, but regardless, they go ahead and land what is arguably the top running back prospect in the last 10 years, getting comparisons to a guy like Marshawn Faulk, and the top offensive player in this draft. Barkley will add a lot of help to that Colts offense and help Andrew Luck in his comeback from injury. At number 7, the Tampa Bay Bucs select Derwin James, probably the top safety in this entire draft. He's been skyrocketing up mock boards recently, and the Bucs stay local here, go ahead, fortify their secondary, considering they're in a division with quarterbacks like Drew Brees, Cam Newton, and Matt Ryan. With the number 8 overall pick, the Chicago Bears upgrade their defense and select cornerback Denzel Ward. Now this makes sense as the Bears went ahead and aggressively upgraded their offense in free agency, so it's safe to say that this will be a defensive pick. The only question is, will it be in the secondary or on the linebacker level with a guy like Tremaine, Edmunds? The reason I side with Ward is because a lot of the media in Chicago has been clamoring about that name and mentioning it. For that reason, Ward is my pick. At number 9, the San Francisco 49ers select safety cornerback Minkah Fitzpatrick, and after struggling mightily last year in pass coverage, the 49ers went ahead, added Richard Sherman, and now pairing Fitzpatrick with Sherman, they automatically shore up that defense, especially on the secondary level. Now, I will say another possibility here is a linebacker, a guy like Tremaine Edmunds again, especially with the recent troubles Reuben Foster has had, but I think 49ers go ahead address that later in the draft. With the 10th pick overall, the Raiders select linebacker Tremaine Edmunds. And here, I think a big factor is the new head coach hiring of John Gruden. He has the defensive background. He has also been on the record as saying that he wants to go old school, and nothing fits the bill better than that than getting a linebacker that can captain the field and do it all. Enter Tremaine Edmunds. With the number 11 pick overall, the Miami Dolphins select quarterback Josh Allen, and in this scenario with no trades up into the top 10, I think this is right around where you'll see that last quarterback go. And here, the Miami Dolphins stay patient and they get their guy. Now, I do think they are in the market for a quarterback. In free agency, it seems like they have blown up that entire offense. We don't know how Ryan Tannehill is going to come back from injury. So what do they go and do? They get their next franchise quarterback in Josh Allen, a guy that has a huge arm and people are comparing to Carson Wentz. At number 12, the Buffalo Bills select linebacker Roquan Smith, and unfortunately they just narrowly missed out on the guy they were most likely targeting in Josh Allen. But regardless, the Bills stay smart here and decide not to reach on another quarterback like a Lamar Jackson. And instead, they fortify their defense, which makes sense as they have that defensive background now with Sean McDermott being the head coach there. And nothing better than getting that captain again to lead your defense in Roquan Smith, the linebacker. At number 13, the Washington Redskins select defensive tackle Vita Vea. And if this is how things play out, I think the Redskins will be jumping for joy as they struggled mightily against the run last year, and adding what many people consider the top defensive tackle talent in this entire draft will immediately bolster their defense. At number 14, the Green Bay Packers select defensive back Josh Jackson. In a free agency where the Packers went ahead and added Jimmy Graham, along with expecting a fully healthy Aaron Rodgers back, their offense should be humming as always. But the defense has always been the issue here in Green Bay, along with losing a guy in Demarius Randall. Now they will have to address the secondary again, and that's why they go with Josh Jackson here as the pick. With the 15th pick overall, the Arizona Cardinals select offensive lineman Mike McGlinchey, and this is a selection here that can go in numerous directions, I think, but most likely on the offensive side of the ball. Now, the Cardinals could go quarterback and target a guy like Lamar Jackson, but I think he has too many question marks to go at number 15. Another option is wide receiver, as the Cardinals pretty much lost everyone not named Larry Fitzgerald in free agency, but to me the smartest pick here is to protect your investment in Sam Bradford and go with the most well-rounded guy in McGlinchey. At number 16, the Baltimore Ravens select wide receiver Calvin Ridley, and even though the Ravens went ahead and added a guy like Crabtree in free agency, he is in the back end of his career. They need a true number one, and that's what Ridley will hopefully be. It seems like the Ravens are always trying to find their next star receiver, but never quite hit. Now, Ridley's somewhat subpar combine allows him to drop here, but he is still touted as the number one receiver overall, so the Ravens happily land him. At number 17, the San Diego Chargers select defensive lineman Daron Payne. To me, the Chargers are in a good spot here, being able to select the best player available, as they are a team that's better than their record indicated. They had a lot of close losses last year, right at the last second. They have got plenty of offensive talent with Rivers, Gordon, and Keenan Allen. Now they can afford to go ahead and upgrade that defensive line, add help for Bosa and for Ingram. I think this will be a great selection and form a very scary triple tandem. At number 18, the Seattle Seahawks select defensive end Marcus Davenport. To me, this is a selection that can go in numerous directions, yet again, mostly because of the upheaval the Seahawks have had this offseason. They disbanded the Legion of Boom, they traded away Michael Bennett, and they've always needed help on the offensive line, it seems like. But to me, Marcus Davenport here is the next best player available, and it's a position of need. That's why he's the selection. At number 19, the Dallas Cowboys select linebacker Leighton Vander Esch. To me, the Cowboys are yet again a team that can go in numerous directions. Wide receiver is a possibility as they will most likely look to replace Dez Bryant in the near future, but I think you can find that replacement in day 2 of the draft. Instead, they focus on defense where they have plenty of needs, but the most outstanding need to me is at the linebacker position. We've seen what happens to that defense when Sean Lee is absent, and he has had a recent injury history. That's why the selection here is linebacker, and a guy in Vander that has been skyrocketing up draft boards. At number 20, the Detroit Lions select defensive lineman and hometown kid Maurice Hurst. Now, Hurst was a guy that had his value hurt a little bit because of reports coming out about a heart condition, but if there's any team that'll do their research and have him cleared by this point, it'll be the Detroit Lions, and the Lions need help at this position. Now, I liken this to Star Lotulelei a couple years back. He had a similar report come out about him. He dropped a couple spots, but he ended up being a very good player in this league, and I think that'll be the case for Hurst as well. At number 21, the Cincinnati Bengals select offensive guard Will Hernandez, and to me, this is a pick that should be pretty straightforward for the Bengals. We saw last year what happened after they lost 2 of their top offensive linemen. They couldn't protect Andy Dalton at all. He didn't have any time to find AJ Green, and that offense was atrocious. Now, on top of protecting Andy Dalton, they're going to need to open up lanes for Joe Mixon, so offensive lineman here makes sense. At number 22, the Buffalo Bills are on the clock again, and they select cornerback Jair Alexander. Now, again, the Bills could opt to go quarterback here, but in this draft, I have them continuing to upgrade the defense. Alexander is a top 5 cornerback in this class, and again, fitting with the mentality of the defensive-minded Sean McDermott, he is the pick. At number 23, the LA Rams select linebacker Rashaan Evans, and probably after having one of the best free agencies after adding guys like Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, and Ndamukong Suh, the Rams continue to get better defensively. Now, another option here would be to go ahead and look at a receiver to try and replace Sammy Watkins. There have been talks, however, of an Odell Beckham trade to the Rams. Most likely won't happen because of the asking price, but instead the Rams go ahead and replace Alec Ogletree with Evans here. At number 24, the Carolina Panthers select defensive back Dante Jackson. And even though the Panthers were a playoff team this year, they do have a lot of holes on their roster, especially after losing Andrew Norwell in free agency. On top of that, having Ryan Khalil retire after this year. On the defensive side of things, Julius Peppers signed just a 1-year agreement, so he will most likely be gone. Thomas Davis as well on the linebacker level. But to me, the area that needs to be addressed is the secondary. Last year, the Panthers struggled mightily against top-notch quarterbacks in pass defense, and especially after botching the signing of Bashawn Breeland. At number 25, the Tennessee Titans select defensive end Harold Landry, and to me, this pick makes sense here on the defensive side of things. Last year, Titans upgraded the wide receiver position with Corey Davis, this offseason adding Dion Lewis, and with the newly added Mike Vrabel having that defensive background, Harold Landry is the next best available pass rusher makes sense. At number 26, the Atlanta Falcons select defensive tackle Taven Bryan. And if he is available at this point in time, Bryan, I think, would be the perfect choice for the Falcons, especially after they lost Dontari Poe in free agency. Bryan provides a younger, more athletic, and better capable defensive lineman when it comes to getting to the quarterback. That's why he fits the bill perfectly here. At number 27, the New Orleans Saints select defensive end Sam Hubbard. Now, after knocking it out of the park in last year's draft, the Saints continue to make moves on the defensive side of the football and add a guy that can complement Cam Jordan. They already have a loaded offense with Breeze, Michael Thomas, Kamara, Ingram, and so on and so forth. That's why they go ahead, upgrade the defensive line, and help themselves out in a division that includes Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, and Jameis Winston. At number 28, the Pittsburgh Steelers select defensive back Mike Hughes. More than likely, this pick will be on the defensive side of the football, considering how much talent they have offensively, especially after adding Juju Smith-Schuster last year. Now, another position of need here is linebacker after the Ryan Shazier injury, but I think instead you go defensive back and land a guy in Mike Hughes that is a top 5 talent in his position. At number 29, the Jacksonville Jaguars select tight end Mike Gesicki and continue to surround Blake Bortles with more offensive talent. Now another option here could be wide receiver, especially after losing Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns, but I like the tight end position because not only does it add value as a pass catcher, but also as a pass blocker for Blake Bortles. At number 30, the Minnesota Vikings select offensive tackle Kolton Miller. After making it all the way to the NFC Championship game, the Vikings went ahead and parted ways with Case Keenum and inserted Kirk Cousins and gave him a fully guaranteed contract. Now, what better way to protect that investment than adding a big body in Kolton Miller on the offensive line? At number 31, the New England Patriots select cornerback Carlton Davis as they find their cheaper and younger replacement of Malcolm Butler. Davis is a top 5 cornerback in this draft class. Another option here is offensive line in order to protect an aging Tom Brady, but Davis meets the bill, especially after the showing the Patriots had in the Super Bowl and the struggles they had in pass defense. And with the final pick in the first round at number 32, the Philadelphia Eagles select wide receiver DJ Moore. After fortifying an already stout defense by adding Michael Bennett, the Eagles turn their attention to the offense and add a speedy young DJ Moore to help their slew of quarterbacks, whether it be Wentz or Foles, by getting them an additional weapon. And with that, we come to a conclusion of this version of my mock draft. Let me know what you guys thought. Did you agree with the picks for your respective teams? Did you agree with the analysis? Now, I will be making a future video including some trades, so keep a lookout on that. But in the meantime, let me hear your comments, and if you enjoyed, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in future videos.